Hey friends, Peggy Hall here from The Healthy American. And if you are looking to be in better shape, mind, body, spirit, all that biohacking, I love those hacks, you have got to check out and follow my friend Joel Evan with his Hacked Life podcast.
All right, I'm here with Peggy Hall. She's a lot of things. She's the director. She used to be the director of teacher of education at the University of California, Irvine, over 30 plus years. She's got a background in TV and health. And what Peggy's really known for right now is she is the founder of the healthyamerican.org. And she shares her research, her links to educate and help inspire and inform everybody to really take action and promote truth and freedom. So Peggy, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Joel. I'm glad that you are a fellow freedom fighter on the front lines.
Yeah, many people probably don't know this, but, not too many months ago, I was working as a first responder and I reached out to you and you were super gracious and you helped me really navigate these unsteady and really probably uncharted waters that we've never seen unlike any time before. And you gave me a lot of sage advice. I think a lot of people, here's the great thing about this too is, and you know this, is that you helped me and I've gone and helped probably 50 more people. And that's so awesome and so cool. And people now reach out to me because they're like, hey, he knows a lot about religious exemptions. And I did. I had to go deep. I had to read about Title VII. I had to do that. And that was all because of you. So thank you. And your work's, you don't even realize it probably, but your work is spreading all the time. So it's really neat.
I'm so glad to hear that, Joel. That's exactly what needs to be done. That's the tidal wave that we need to really get going. It's a ripple that becomes a tidal wave. And if more people actually did what you're doing, standing up and then educating others, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. And, again, you're a beacon of light for that, for really empowering people and realizing, hey, educating people and letting them know this is the law. This is what it says, and people are violating it. And I can't wait to get into that because I've had some legal repercussions coming, and I'm curious what your thoughts are about them. But before we jump into all this craziness, I'm always interested, Peggy. It's like, you're not a lawyer. That's not your background. So, but yet it seems like you are teaching other lawyers the law. So, how did that happen?
Well, there is so much ignorance floating around. It's really kind of sad. I did a video the other day on my channel, which is The Healthy American YouTube, and I do a daily show. It's going to start airing at 3:30 in the afternoon. It's normally 3 p.m. Pacific time. And I did a show, Joe, called Where Are All the Lawyers? And I could only figure out that, number one, the lawyers are they're ignorant in these civil rights laws. And the laws that we'll talk about in a moment are very simple. They're very straightforward. But the other thing I found out when I was looking for attorneys myself, I found out that they actually are, some of them are on retainer by the government. So they cannot take any cases, actually, which is really interesting. They cannot take cases because they're being paid not to take cases. And that's happening in California. They're on retainer by the federal government. I'm sorry, by the federal government, by the state government, by the county governments. And the other thing is there's something in law which is called a precedent. And these attorneys do not want to go and they do not want to lose, or they do not also want to be excoriated by their cronies. You have to think about it. These attorneys are licensed to practice law and they don't want to lose their license in their state. Their co-workers are the judges. Those are their co-workers. And
Right.
So they may have a really important court case coming up. Well, these are all important court cases, but they may have something that they've been working on and they don't want to get on the wrong side of the judge. I've had attorneys tell me this directly. Oh, I've got this other case coming up and I can't really afford to get on the wrong side of the judge. He was going to represent somebody who had been arrested for not wearing a mask in a grocery store, and he wanted her to wear a mask in the courtroom. And they actually brought me in to consult with them, this team of attorneys. And I said, oh, no. You are guaranteed to lose this case the minute your client puts on a mask and goes in front of the jury. And the jury is going to say, well, why are you wearing a mask now if you couldn't wear one in the supermarket? So I really do not have much regard for those attorneys that want people to violate their own God-given conscience and also comply with these non-laws. And and I know that guidance is not a law. We don't have a court of guidance. We have a court of law. We don't have guidancers. We have lawyers. And there are so many that will not stand up. So I just rolled up my sleeves. My background is in political science. I'm a researcher by nature. I've been an educator for over 30 years at the university level. So when someone tells me to do something, I don't say, okay, I say, why? And I rolled up my sleeves. I found out about Title VII, never knew about Title VII, all of my life until this happened. And it's very straightforward. The EEOC, right, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, is the federal agency that was created in 1964 to prevent what's happening today from happening. And these attorneys are turning a blind eye. And I think what's going to happen, Joel, I don't watch TV, but the very few times I'm at the gym or somewhere and the TV is on, I'll see these ads where the lawyers are saying, are you suffering from mesothelioma? Which I don't even know what it is.
Yes.
And we are going to see a slew of lawsuits when all the dust settles. There will be these attorneys jumping out of the woodwork trying to take these big pharmacy companies to court for big bucks. The reason why they're not representing you and me is because there's no money in telling your employer to stop harassing you. The only money is once you have been terminated. So we can dive into as much as you want detail, but that's the answer. The attorneys either don't know, or they don't want to do it, or they are waiting until the dust settles and then going after these big bucks. But I do counsel. Many attorneys come to me for advice, not only about, I call it the needle, the illegal measures
Thank you for
on
saying that. We'll make sure we refer to it as that.
Yeah, and I also call it the cooties cure, because we all have cooties. And I'm not minimizing anybody who's been sick. People get sick. It's very sad. People die. That's a tragedy. What I am minimizing is the government overreach and the imposition, because we are not responsible. You're a health coach. My gosh, you can barely get people, well, maybe not you, I'm sure you can motivate them. People barely can take care of their own health. How in the world am I supposed to be responsible for somebody else's health?
Yeah, unless there's some other motive, right? Okay, so many things to unpack. And I'm just curious too, the healthyamerican.org, was that spawned out of the pandemic, or were you doing that before, or this was just like, how did this come about, the Healthy American?
Well, it all started because, my background has been as an educator, and for about the last 20 years, I've been in health and wellness. So I've done a similar along your lines. I've done health coaching, natural weight loss, natural beauty. I've run women's health retreats, for the last 10, 15 years. And so I already was in that space of being an educator. And I didn't have a YouTube channel, but I had a pretty thriving Facebook channel where I did these daily shows, which I call Positive Encouragement.
Nice.
And when all of this happened, I was probably like a lot of people arguing with people on Facebook. And my husband's like, why are you on Facebook? It's like a dive bar. All you're doing is, people don't want to hear what you have to say, sweetheart. I'm sorry to tell you. They only care about what they have to say. He said, you're an educator. You need to make a video explaining what's going on, explain the laws, and put it on YouTube. He said, people go on YouTube to learn things. They don't go on Facebook to learn things. And I said, you're exactly right. So I created a video called The State of Emergency in California is Null and Void. And I was the first person, to my knowledge, that actually broke down the law and exposed it and showed everybody that there are no grounds for this emergency. Now, yes, as I say, people get sick, people die, all that happens. Yeah. But according to the letter of the law, there are no grounds for the emergency. That video went viral. I created a YouTube channel to put up that video. So I created the Healthy American. And then, Joel, people started emailing me from all over, because you can put your email on YouTube. And they said, can you show me those laws in my state? How did you find that? Where did you learn about this? What can I do? And I thought, oh my gosh, I need to put up a website so I can have all of the data on the website, because I can't email. I was getting thousands of emails flooding in. Luckily, I know how to make websites, put up the website, and now the healthyamerican.org is like an encyclopedia. It's only been up for 18, 20 months or something. And it is a compilation And I have so many pages that I've even put behind the scenes because people say there's so much, where do I get started?
Yep.
So I keep simplifying, and I would tell everybody to just go to the homepage. I've got 23, 24 ways to get help and to take action. I answer all of your questions related to your medical rights, how to get kids out of these government prison schools. And then in the early days, my specialty was helping businesses stay open lawfully. There is no reason for anyone to shut down their business. It's completely illegal. It is unlawful. It is against all of the laws in California. Federal laws, you have the right, just like you have the right to your job, Joel, people have the right to their business. So that was my main area for many months. I've had a lot of hit pieces done on me by the LA Times.
Yeah, once you actually start telling the truth, it's amazing. I always see that. I look up these doctors; they're quacks now. They're quacks. They heal all kinds of diseases and stuff, but now they're quacks. So yeah, that's right. It's an honor. You joined you joined some of the top elite people.
Luckily, I still have my channels of communication open. But yes, everyone who is speaking the truth now is being maligned. And they've been calling me, the prominent anti-masker. I'm not anti anything. I am pro-right. I am pro your rights, freedom, pro-freedom, pro-human rights, pro-God-given rights. And then when all of this happened with the religion, with the cooties cure being forced, my husband is a pastor, and we don't have a physical church. He is a teaching pastor, a counseling pastor. So he has been a guest pastor at many different churches. And when all of this happened, we started to do a beach church, which we still do the first Sunday of every month. Come on down, San Clemente. I'm seeing all these wonderful comments here. Let me know if you've been to the beach church, if you can come to the beach church. First Sunday of every month, we'll be there January 2nd. But I'm not sure when this is airing, but 11 a.m. And because my husband has never stood down, he calls out these false teachers, and he is as knowledgeable in the law as I am. We make a really powerful team in helping people understand their God-given rights. And Pastor David comes from the spiritual side. He will talk about the Christian doctrine. And Joel, the other thing, we've helped people from all faiths, from no faiths. We've had atheists get their religious exemption, yes, because the laws are so strong that an atheist can put forth his or her belief in nothing, or ethical beliefs, more ethical and moral beliefs are also recognized by the law. And we have had thousands of success stories. We've got just hundreds of hours of free content. I want everybody to watch that over at the Healthy American YouTube. And then we've got a private group where we go through it step by step, really take everybody by the hand. And we have had successes. We have had appeals, because as you know, Joel, what happens is when you stand up for truth, and regardless of where anybody is in their faith background, I mean, the fact is you were born with rights, and these rights cannot be taken from you. And we are standing on that truth. And when you start to stand on that, people will look for a way to tear you down. You've got some personal stories along those lines, and it's not over, and we have to keep fighting.
Yes, I love that. And your story is so powerful, because the Healthy American would have not been born from this pandemic. And it's like instead, we see everybody running, and it makes sense. They're living in fear, scarcity, and you chose not to. You chose to live from a place of purpose and power, and God, and then how beautiful is that we all got blessed with the Healthy American. Now here, you and I are connecting, and you're connecting with so many more people on your YouTube channel, and it just, it makes so much sense. And God, I love that. I just love when you see this purpose and passion lead into what you're aligned to, your higher self, as I always say.
Absolutely. I love that, Joel. Let me just give you a little backstory on that, because right before the birth of the Healthy American, I was let go of 2 jobs. I had 2 government jobs, and one in my health and fitness business. I was teaching for the city of San Clemente, and they shut everything down. I was a 1099 employee, which meant they just did not renew my contract. I didn't even have anybody to fight with. I couldn't even put forth an exemption because the job was gone. as was my livelihood. And then the other job is working for the community college, which I'm still on the books, but they've never given me another assignment. So again, I'm in limbo because I don't have any claim to make. They can say, oh, no, we just don't have the number of students. You're not, you don't have top seniority. But because of both of those situations, I've gotten zero unemployment money. I have do not even have an employer to invoke my religious exemption. And I really had a meltdown. I was crying out against God. I was shaking my fists. I was throwing pillows. And I really had a crisis of conscience. I had a conscience. I had a crisis of faith, I might say.
Totally.
And many people have gone through this. God, why now? God, why? If things were going so well, how could all of this be taken away from me? 2 jobs, my livelihood completely wiped out with one illegal stroke of the pen. How could this be? How has evil overtaken us? I really had a crisis. And I have not really shared this story that much, Joel, but I will tell you that I hit such rock bottom with such despair, such sorrow, grief, anger, frustration, bitterness, outrage. And I was so exhausted at the end of that emotional experience. I went to bed. The next day was when my husband said, sweetheart, you've got to do this YouTube video. You are spinning your heels. You've got this information. You know how to research. You know how to teach. Just do it. And it has become the biggest blessing in our life. God will provide. I tell this story to encourage others because I promise you, if you are having struggles at your work, if you are doing the appeals, if you are following my teachings and you're going up against a brick wall, I want to congratulate you. It means that God has something better in store for you. He is your provider, not the job. You need, the Bible very clearly states that we are supposed to honor God's statutes, that we honor the Bible says mandates. We honor God's mandates. And I don't even like that word. We are not supposed to honor men. And if you are working in the sea of evil, as I call it, it is time to get out. And I want to encourage everyone. You have gifts to share. You have talents. This job you have is not the only job. Let's not worship the job or your employer. You had another job before you had that one. Yeah. And even for those of you that have been working 43 years, I have someone I'm helping with American Airlines, 43 years as a flight attendant, and they want to get rid of her because of her seniority, and they're using this as an example. Yeah. And part of her was like, well, I kind of did want to retire a couple of years ago. Now's her chance. So God has something for you, and it may not be easy, and it may not be what you want, but it might even be better. I believe in you. God believes in you. He gives you the ability to believe in yourself. I would love to know from anybody listening, what talents, what hidden gifts that you've been holding inside that you haven't shared yet. Joel, before we got on the air, you said that your private business is thriving. This is where God wants you. This is what he wants you to do.
Yeah. And I amen to everything you said. It's so key. I coach a lot of people, and we talk about that. When you align with your higher self, when you align with what you're meant to do, everything starts to happen. And that is for sure what has happened to me. And I can totally relate to your story. I was let go, and I just stepped into my purpose. I stepped into my passion, and luckily I had been building that for years anyways. But I'm going to tell you what I did. Maybe this will help with other people. I had a crisis moment myself, and I really thought about it, and I said, what is the worst that can happen to me? What's the worst they can do if I get fired and I lose my job? And you know what I came up with? The worst they can do is they can take my house, and I'll have no money. That's the worst that can happen. And I thought to myself, well, that means I'd have to go live with my mom, with my family of 4, my wife and my 2 kids. And I thought to myself, from that moment, I started to smile. And I said, well, I know how to make frickin' money, so let's go. If that's all you can do to me, you can't take my soul, you can't take my joy, you can't take my happiness. Now I'm ready to roll. And that was the ignition. So hopefully that can help other people too. And that's what it's all about. And when you start living from your purpose and not a place of fear, so many good things happen. So what a great story, Peggy. Thanks.
Well, I love what you're saying there too as well, Joel. When people can ask themselves those questions, it does put them in a place of power and empowerment and encouragement. And that's what I'm all about at the Healthy American. It's education, empowerment. And the other thing that I love, think about this, everything that's come out of these trying times. You and I met. Think of all the people that you've met. The ability to dig deep inside and to stand for something that is greater than you.
Yeah. Let's talk. I see a lot of questions coming in off the IG, and I'll try to answer some of them. You mentioned religious exemptions, and you have an amazing website and resources there. People can go there, they can get a lot of free stuff, or they can join your program. But what would you say, like, what is like the most common mistake you see over and over again that people are probably making when it comes to just requesting a religious exemption for this time that we're in?
Hang on one second, Joel, because this is delaying just a little bit. I think I got it now. Hopefully this is great. The biggest mistakes that people are making with their religious exemption is they are talking about the science and the medicine, and they are not talking about just their religious views. So it's extremely important. That's number one, is to not talk about all of the side effects, to not talk about the all of the data. Do not talk about Bill Gates. Do not talk about the World Economic Forum. Don't talk about the Great Reset. Don't talk about anything other than your sincerely held religious beliefs. The law is very clear. It's called Title VII, and there are only two simple things that need to happen. Number one is you notify your employer of the conflict between their policy and your beliefs, and you put them on notice in a letter. Now, Joel, some people have been very vocal saying, I don't believe in these exemptions. We have rights. We shouldn't have to ask for permission. You're not asking for permission. You actually are notifying them of your rights. So I agree with you. You are notifying your employer of your rights. That's no different than somebody coming up and maybe, a stranger or whatever coming up, putting their hands on you. You're like, whoa, hang on a second. Back off. You're notifying them of your limits. Are you just going to let people assault you? No. And this is an assault. So you notify them that you have a right not to be assaulted. And I think the other thing that trips people up is the word religion. And they don't like the word religion. I don't really like the word religion either. Yeah. I like the word faith. I like the word, I don't even like the word belief. It's a knowing. I know I'm created by God. I know that God has a purpose for my life. It's not a hope or a belief. It's a knowledge. So the law uses the word religion, that's all, but it also says it can be your moral or ethical beliefs. So let's not get all wrapped up in that. Some people that have made headlines, that have walked off the job, they never invoked their exemption. They just said, I'm not going to do it and you can't make me. Well, I guess that's true, but that would be like you saying, I'm not showing up at work tomorrow and you can't make me. Yeah, but you're required to show up at work and you're required to notify your employer of your exemption. So let's not get bent out of shape and use this as a way to belittle or demean those who are actually using a law and a mechanism that is in place exactly for this reason. So it's no different than if you showed up at work and you said, or you showed up at work with a broken leg and you're going to say, I got to take some time off because I've got this broken leg. I need to get off my feet. You're notifying your employer. Would you just not show up at work and then go on TV because you got fired? No, they're going about it the wrong way. So I am here to help those that want to go about it the right way. Notify your employer, state what the conflict is, and that's basically the same point, is you notify your employer, you say, this is against my religious belief or my moral and ethical belief because I was created with an immune system that I'm not going to fiddle with. And then number two, your employer is required by law. It's not an option, it's not a suggestion, it's not a maybe. There are two things. You notify your employer accommodates you. Period. Now, the employers are either willfully ignorant or they are incompetent, they are inept, they are incapable of they don't have the mental capacity to understand the law, or they are intentionally deceiving you, and it's likely a mix of all. Before we hopped on, Joel, we were talking about some of these ridiculous questions they're asking, and let me just tell everyone, the law says your employer can make a limited inquiry. Now, I was an English teacher for many years. Limited means with boundaries, with restrictions. It doesn't mean they can ask. I saw an employer wanted to have access to the employees' pharmaceutical, like any drugs that they had purchased at CVS or whatever. They wanted access to a list of all of their pharmaceutical drugs. That is completely out of bounds.
Peggy,
It's illegal.
They wanted to know about my kids. They wanted to know about their history. I think that's a Title VII. I think you're stepping over your boundaries, in my opinion. So yeah, I mean.
So Joel, the answer for that one is, oh, are you going to be hiring my kids here?
Right.
Are they applying for a job?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous, but the law is on your side. You just are straightforward. I recommend that everybody be polite and cordial. Don't come out of the gate belligerent. Leave that dominant, sort of aggressive side.
Leave the ego out the door.
If you,
it's tough.
only if you have to do an appeal. And here's another hot off the press, Joel. I have not really talked about this too much. I am going to be doing just a standalone class on appeals only, because a lot of people have already done their exemption. Maybe they did it not following, an adequate approach, and they just want help with the appeal. So I'm going to do a standalone workshop just on appeals. And here's a sneak peek. You've got to ask your employer, number one, who's on this committee that's assessing my exemption? Who are these people? Number two, what is their job title? What are their qualifications? Number three, who appointed them? Were they elected? How come I'm not on that committee? What if I wanted to get on that committee? And then the most important one, well, actually, there's a couple more. I would say, what kind of training did they get? How are they equipped to assess my sincerely held religious beliefs? Are they an expert in Title VII? I want to see what training they've had, how they were selected, and finally, this is the clincher, I want their attestation of faith. I want to see their statement of faith, because I don't know if I'm dealing with Satanists or atheists or pagans, and everybody has a right to believe what they want. That's not an issue at all. I want to know who I'm dealing with. You're asking for my belief statement. I want the belief statement of each of these members on the committee, and that is what I would do, and you have a right to do that. If they have a right to assess you, how are they assessing you? What are the grounds? What is the criteria?
Yeah, love that. Peggy, just FYI, on Instagram, everyone's chiming in right now. We're going live, and people are chiming in saying the audio is broken. I don't know if there's a way. I know you
Let
have,
me hop off. I'll hop off and hop back on.
Maybe hop off and then hop back on and see if we can rectify the situation.
Yeah, you know what happens here? Let me see if I can get all the way off. You know what happens, Joel? They don't like me.
I know.
Often when I do, I've done
We're here to fight this. That's why we're here.
I've done some lives just on my own, and whenever I say the word like the EEOC or FDA, my audio, I'm still on. I'm still streaming, and the audio is gone. So I've done a couple of live streams, and they just don't like this. Let me hop back on. Maybe
Peggy's
we can do
hop
short
back on,
bits.
guys. Just give her a second. We're
okay.
We're working in real time. I see your guys' comments. I'm looking. I'm going to try to answer some of your questions. By the way, anybody that's asking about, I saw some things about. Well, here's the thing. Peggy has a lot of good resources. So if you're looking for, if you're a direct threat, she has information on that and some verbiage you can use. So if you guys are looking for verbiage, I know one of the question was, if you had to wear a mask and that kind of stuff. She talks all about that and how you can appropriately answer it. So microphone checkup, Peggy, we're back.
Okay. Can you hear me? Are you guys able to hear me? Let's make sure everything is on my end here. Let's see if we can have some thumbs up. Yeah, I was looking at the comments. Thanks, guys. It's so great to see you. And I think I have some followers that we've got similar followers here, Joel. So
yeah, that's amazing.
Awesome.
Like you said, aligned with the right people. Somebody even commented there, and that hey, they're from Southwest, and that you help them a lot. So just really cool.
Great.
And speaking of that, Southwest, I wanted to talk about that. Like, you've helped a lot of people in the big debacle, a couple months ago with Kaiser and Southwest. They were overstepping some of their boundaries, I think, and then they had a backpedal. Can you share, just any major victories that stand out that you could think of? Maybe it's just those two, or is there anything else on the horizon that you're seeing? I'm curious.
Oh my gosh, Joel, we have helped individuals from so many different industries, every industry you can imagine. If people are interested, they can see that also over at thehealthyamerican.org. We have people from OSHA that have gone through our program. And I am on the record stating that OSHA is going to be the knight in shining armor for this whole house of cards to fall down. I did a video way back when, like 2 years ago, going on 2 years ago in June, so a year and a half. And I was the first person that had that video showing that when you have a mask on and you put on the oximeter, which measures the gas in the air, that it goes below 19.5, which is OSHA's requirement before you die. And that you cannot have an enclosed area that has less than 19.5% oxygen in the air. And that got dinged, that got taken down. It still is over at BitChute. But I started talking about OSHA way back then because I've scoured the OSHA regulations, and I'm also friends with the OSHA experts, Tammy Clark and Kristen Megan, and we've done lots of interviews where it's said, yes, OSHA, the ones that actually, if you talk to them off the record, they know that all of this is hogwash, as I call it.
Yeah.
And here's the beautiful thing. When OSHA was told by the president to create these regulations, these emergency regulations, and you read what they wrote, you can see that it was written really reluctantly by somebody who had to do it under pressure. But here's the beautiful thing. Two things came out in that OSHA document that I don't know if most people caught. Number one, it clearly stated that if you are a work from home employee, you are not under any obligation to get this cooties cure. You don't have to take the needle. If you show up at work, if you work somewhere and nobody else is around, like a janitor, you go to the workplace, but no one else is there, you do not have to get the needle. If you work primarily outside, you do not have to get the needle. This is the first government agency that has it on the record. Further, this is the best part of all, OSHA, a department of the federal government, has on the record that anyone, because of a medical reason or a religious belief, can be exempt not only from the needle, but from testing and from the mask. It is on the record. I have a letter. You guys can get that letter. I did a video all about it called Good News from OSHA, and that you should send to your employer if you are being harassed. You can get an exemption for the mask and the test, as well as the needle. Secondly, OSHA wrote these emergency temporary standards in a reluctant manner, as I mentioned. It immediately triggered a lawsuit, and this ruling now has a temporary injunction, meaning OSHA is under a court order to not enforce any of the mandatory, which I don't even like to use that word, the illegal measures relating to the needle. So that is a huge victory. There is also the federal government was told that they can no longer require this of federal contractors, and they can no longer require it for any of the hospitals. So the success stories that we've had, I've had people from the Department of the Navy. I have helped people from every department of the government, the Treasury, the FBI, Department of Homeland Security. Yes, the ABCDEFDA. I don't know if they'll mute me again. We have people from every department of government coming for our assistance. And I've helped people from Bayer, from Merck, from J&J, from Moderna, all of these companies. They have employees that do not want to participate, and they have come to the Healthy American and gotten help. We have seen the Department of the Navy. Employees have told me, Peggy, I think the Navy is watching your videos because they changed the form from all these egregious questions to the two simple questions. What is your conflict and what is your accommodation? The hardliners are Kaiser and United Airlines, and of course, outfits like yours, Joel, that are these really the county and state agencies are playing hardball. And you know why? I think everybody knows why. You know why? Because they are getting money. They're getting money from the federal government. And so they are, and that is fraud. They are big frauds, phonies, and fakers. And I'm so glad to be here to share that news. Southwest Airlines told me, Are we still there?
Yep.
Southwest Airlines, yeah, employees did tell me that the CEO changed their policy from unpaid leave, and they got rid of that, and they also got rid of any deadlines for the exemption after my videos. So I was really happy about that. And it's all based on education.
Yeah.
So people that don't want to learn, they are the ones that are closing their minds. And people that want to learn, that want to expand their knowledge, we are the ones that are winning.
I love that. Okay, so I have a two-part question here because I've heard you mention several times you don't have to choose, and I'm gonna the needle or the job.
Yeah, the
You don't
jab
have
or
to
the
do that.
job.
Yeah, I didn't know if I could say the jab. So
I think
you've
so.
mentioned that several times, and you quote Title VII. But then here's my question: like, if that's the case, then why are these employers, like one of the places I just worked at, why are they enforcing this and firing people over this if they're not allowed to? Like, are they just is the reason that they just don't think someone like me is going to step back and fight them?
You're exactly right. And the other thing, Joel, is they're criminals.
Mhm.
And criminals break the law. And unfortunately, that's a lot of what we're seeing here is just lawbreakers. It's no different than you telling kids, you know, hey, stop throwing rocks through the window, knock it off, knock it off. And they don't. They just keep
Yeah.
doing it. Why? Because they are lawbreakers. And these companies believe, or they've been told, that they will be immune from any lawsuits, but they will not be. And we're already seeing it. We're seeing that these court rulings are telling these, they're telling the government, and now there definitely will be court cases going against these companies. There's a giant one against Kaiser, and it just has to work its way through. They are not going to stop until they feel it in their pocketbook. These evildoers care about power, they care about money, and they care about their ego. And I'm dealing with it on a local level. I've got a lawsuit against our Orange County Board of Supervisors for violating the law. And it's
Awesome.
not even for me. It's not against me. It's against the whole community that they are calling. They're continuing a local health emergency. There are no grounds for it. The law says there has to be, you have to have mutual aid coming from other counties. You have to have a lack of resources, or the resources are overrun. Well, it's the exact opposite. The hospitals are empty. People are being laid off. So we have that in front of a judge right now. And of course, these lawsuits take so long to wind their way through the courts. It takes like 90 days before the other party even has to give their answer. And there's all this, rigmarole and shenanigans that go on, but it doesn't matter. At least I'm standing up. I'm doing what I can do. I'm
Love that.
educating others along the way. And the most important thing I want to ask others is, like, are you living in dignity? Are you treating yourself with dignity? Are you living in a way that honors God, that honors your conscience? Or are you going along with all of this and making excuses and justifying it? And the only answer and antidote for all of it, Joel, is the light of God's truth. These people are living under a spell of deception, of evil. They've chosen evil. There will be those that will never be redeemed from evil. We know that. They're going to just, that's their choice. They want to be separated from God. They want to be living in a lie. And we have that choice, like you said, regardless of the consequences. And there are consequences, and there are casualties, and there are sacrifices. And my view is, bring it on. That's all you got? You think I'm going to capitulate because I can't shop at Trader Joe's? Are you kidding? You think
Yeah.
that's going to stop me?
Yeah. There's you gotta do more than censor Peggy Hall from Trader Joe's. We're gonna, all right. Hey, Peggy, I got so many more questions, but I want to just take a quick break and talk. There's some great people on IG that are following us, and they've been through this whole time. Shanghai Senorita, I want to ask you your question because you've been really patient. I have insurance through my employer. My PCP isn't allowing me to write medical accommodations for anyone. What do I do?
So the medical accommodation is probably the worst way to go, in my opinion. None of this is legal advice.
Yeah.
It's just my own personal opinion. And the reason why is because the doctors are licensed by the state, and the state is scrutinizing the doctors that are writing these medical exemptions. Also, it's very expensive to get a medical exemption, because not only do you have to go to the doctor, your employer is going to want you to go to the doctor every 3 months, every 6 months, because whatever reason your doctor gives, your employer is going to say, well, we have to see if your medical condition has changed. And it is a very difficult approach. Now, having said that, There are those of you that have a bona fide medical reason. You may already be on a disability at your job. And if that is the case, then by all means, get the medical exemption if you can. And you don't have to do either or. You can get a medical exemption and a religious exemption just to cover all bases. It's not either or.
Awesome.
And if you don't like that doctor, go find another doctor. That would be my other advice.
I'll concur with you. I've, in California, I have worked. Doctors, they're not allowed to write these exemptions. They're super scrutinized. They can probably write a tops of 3 a year, and if they write more than that, they're flagged. They're not going to do it. That's just not a good way to do it. I agree with Peggy on that one. And then someone else asked, can doctor's office require to ask for their vaccine status? Do you know about that one?
They can ask, but your doctor is really not allowed to discriminate against you. Imagine if your doctor said, well, we don't treat anybody with AIDS. No. You can't come into our office if you have AIDS. I want you to, every time you get confronted with this vaccine or mask or anything like that, I want you to replace that with, for ladies, you could think about being pregnant. Imagine if you showed up at work and they said, oh, no, you have to go on unpaid leave if you're pregnant. You're like, excuse me? Oh, you have AIDS. No, you're not able to, well, now you have to be on unpaid leave. And as a matter of fact, if they're testing people for this virus, why aren't they testing people for AIDS and hepatitis and tuberculosis and everything else? So You are protected by, if you're in California, you're protected by California Civil Code 51. It says that you have the right, you are free and equal. That's what the law starts out with. That's all. You don't even need to read the rest of the law. You are free and equal in California. As in this jurisdiction, you are free and equal. You have the right to go to any doctor. You have the right to go to any hospital. You have the right to go to any bank, any liquor store, any gym. Well, Peggy, it's a private business. Exactly. Congratulations. That's the definition of a public accommodation. The law says that a private business, yes, a private business that engages in commerce, if you give them money, they're now called a public accommodation, and they have to accommodate you. And the law is very clear in California. They cannot restrict your entry. They cannot restrict any privileges, any service, any of the facilities. They cannot tell you to wait outside. I've been fighting this for going on 2 years. I'm just going to start using that frame of reference now, because in California, all this hogwash started at the end of February, believe it or not. That's when the first emergency was declared, February 25th. And all of that is illegal. I have never worn a mask. I never will. I do not patronize places that discriminate against me, just like I would not patronize a place that said, we don't serve people in wheelchairs. Well, why would I go there? So they can no more reject you and reject giving you service than they could somebody in a wheelchair or somebody with an accent or somebody with a different colored skin. So it's up to you, each individual, to educate yourself on these laws. They're all available at the Healthy American, or just do an internet search. That's what I did. Just do the research. It's your life. These are your rights. No one has the right to tell you where you can go, can't go. You are free and equal. And these are public businesses owned by a private person. And it doesn't matter if it's a doctor, dentist, veterinarian, they are required to accommodate you.
Love that. And then, Peggy, I know we're getting close to the hour, and so I want to be respectful of your time. But, after everything you just said, there's just so much confusion going on. I just saw all 50 states now blocked the mandate, but then I still see things about the states can do whatever they want. So it's just a lot of confusion. At the end of the day, though, are we winning?
Absolutely. The tide is turning. I see this. We get thousands of success stories pouring in. And as I say, there will be some casualties. Many of us are dealing with criminals, and they need to be brought up on their charges. But the overall direction is very positive. I am on the record saying that this is going to be blowing over after the first of the year. They have taken this cooties crisis as far as they can. The script is old. They need new script writers. They've taken it as far as they can. People are not putting up with it any longer. Even those who were wearing the scam, as I call it, and going along with it are getting sick and tired of it. Even those, Joel. I've had people that have already gotten the jab, one jab at work. And now they're coming to me saying, Peggy, I made a mistake. I don't want to do it again. I was coerced. I was threatened. I didn't want to lose my job, but I'm not doing it again.
Yeah.
So even those that were going along with it are no longer going along with it. And the court rulings are all on our side. More and more companies are putting a pause on these illegal measures. And please, everybody, I implore you not to call it a mandate. A mandate is two guys having coffee. These are illegal measures. Illegal measures, illegal policies. Every time you call it a mandate, you are serving evil. You are reinforcing this nonsense. So everybody, I'd love to have a pledge from you saying, I am going to call it an illegal measure. That's exactly what it is. Your company cannot require a policy that violates your rights. Your company cannot require you to sleep with the boss as a condition to keep your job. A company cannot require you to snort cocaine or shoot up heroin. Why are you going along with it? Stop it.
I love it. Peggy, I want to do some lightning round questions for you. But before I do, anything I didn't ask you that you wish I had?
Oh, Joel, you're just awesome. I can't wait. We need to do a part 2 down the road.
I would love to. I have so many. I feel like I could have asked you so many more things. And the people on Instagram were great. All right, let's jump into some lightning round questions, shall we? If
I'm ready.
If the old you could see the new you, what would the new you say?
Okay, so the old me is like a while ago, and it's going to be talking to the new me?
Yeah. So
or
like
vice versa.
Yeah, so what would the new you say to the old you, basically? Like who you are now.
Yeah. It says, fantastic, you did it. You stood up in the face of adversity. It wasn't easy. You took the slings and arrows. And guess what? We're just getting started.
Yes. Here's another good one. What are some choices that you made that you think made you who you are today?
I have one that really sticks out in my mind. So some years ago, I was actually a yoga instructor at the time, and I had a very popular class for about 10 years, the same day, the same time. There was a waiting list, and the new management of the studio told me that they were going to take me off the schedule. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is like the most popular class on your schedule. Yeah. And there were 3 more weeks before I would finish out the month when I'd be off the schedule. And I thought, I'm not even going to go back. I'm going to show them. I'm not even going to show up. I'll have a sub for those last 3 classes. And my mom, who actually came to my classes, said, sweetheart, if you do that, you just gave your power away. I don't care. They have no right. I'm going to show them. I'm not even going to show up. I'll make them suffer. That was my outlook. And my mom said, think about it. You can complete those classes holding your head high in dignity, and they won't even know what hit them. And Joel, I made that decision to continue to teach those last 3 weeks of class, even though I knew I was never going to be back. And to this day, that was several years ago, to this day, I can hold my head up high, and I treated myself with dignity. I honored my students who were waiting to see me each week. And I did not allow those evildoers to have the upper hand. So that is something that really, I honor my obligations. I would say that's one of if I were going to have a tattoo, I would say honor your obligations. For example, we have our interview. If something else came up, I would never take something else. I honor my first obligations at all costs. It's easy. You live in dignity. You never have to worry about letting anybody down. And the best thing of all is you don't agree to anything unless you really want to do it, because you know you can't get out of it.
Yeah. I love that. It reminds me of this Wayne Dyer quote that I always quote. It's, you can blame and complain about the man or whatever it did to you, but it never changes you.
I love that. I love it.
You can complain and blame, but it doesn't change who you are. And so you could have done all those things, but at the end of the day, you're still stuck with you. So now what are you going to do? So I love
exactly.
That. Who's someone, I interview a lot of health and wellness, but I mean, for you, like, who's someone that inspires you? You know, you're such a force to be reckoned with. You're out there doing all this research for all of the millions of people following you. Who's someone that inspires you?
Joel, years ago, even when I was in my young adulthood, these were reruns on TV. And this was one, he was known as the godfather of fitness, Jack LaLanne.
Oh, yeah.
And, okay, you probably know him.
Yeah, the jumping jack guy.
the jumping jack guy. And I tell you, he was ahead of his time, and his videos are still on YouTube.
Yeah.
And you can go back and pluck out any video. Do you know he's talking about organic food? This is like back in 1940 or something.
Yep.
You know, he was talking about organic food. He was talking about not taking medicine. He was talking about your thoughts, how your thoughts affect your feelings and your actions. And he was a man ahead of his time. And he had a daily show called The Jack LaLanne Show. And even though I went on for my degrees were in political science and international policy and all of that, I always had a deep a fascination and appreciation for health and wellness, apparently as you do, because
Yeah.
that is your business. And I always knew that keeping your body and your mind fit and healthy and emotional wellness was so important. And I always had this hidden desire that I wish I had studied that in college while, you know, I was going off sort of into another direction. And I always wanted to have a daily show. I have a daily show. I thank Jack LaLanne for that. His wife, Elaine LaLanne, is still alive and active. She is on Facebook. She's in her 90s. She's doing her fitness videos every morning. And I really am inspired by those who understand the importance of keeping your body and as well as your mind, your spirit, your emotions, but your body physically healthy, because everything else is based on that.
Couple more questions, we'll wrap it up. I'm a big reader. Any books that you'd recommend that had like the most impact on you that you'd recommend other people read?
Well, of course, the Bible. I get that for my daily inspiration and wisdom and all of that. And then I am a person that loves to read books about elevating your life, your well-being, your outlook. And there is a really interesting book that I read a couple of years ago, and it's called It's Just My Nature. It's Just My Nature. And that book is about understanding what makes us tick. It's not a personality book, but it's how we express our energy. And I've gone on to take that and I teach it in my classes related to freedom learning and all of that, so that you understand. I do a lot also in communication counseling, and it helps you understand why you are the way you are, why your loved ones are the way that they are. And so I would definitely recommend It's Just My Nature. Also, Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud. It is amazing. It will teach you how to honor yourself and others by not being a people pleaser, but by doing things out of love rather than out of obligation. So one thing that really bothers me, Joel, I have a feeling we might be of like minds. I'm not a person that can tolerate reluctance, because reluctance is when you have to do something, but you do it anyway with heavy shoulders and a big sigh. If you're going to do it with enthusiasm. So that book about boundaries will teach you how to live life with enthusiasm, without feeling put upon or dragged down or stretched in other directions. So those are a couple that I could recommend. Well, the last couple of years threw all of those rituals and hacks out the window, unfortunately, and I'm trying to get them back. One thing that I have stuck with is I am a person that journals, and I do like a morning brain dump where I'll grab my notebook. I've got it right here behind me, and I will. I've got a notebook here, and just every morning I fill that notebook with all of my thoughts, ideas, goals, dreams. And I have bins and bins of notebooks of things that I have. I archive a lot of what I'm doing, like, oh, this week we did this and that. And so that's something that I do to clear out my mind. And it is really like a conversation with God. I get a lot of insights. I get a lot of direction. I can pour out my heart. And then the other thing that my husband and I do, it's called We Time. And the We stands for weekly encouragement. And what we do is we sit down at the end of the week and we go over all of the highlights, like the highlight reel. And we'll say, oh my gosh, on Monday I did this. And then we celebrate it and we talk about it. And we'll say, oh my gosh, Tuesday, this was a real hardship. And then we process that. And the beautiful thing about the We Time is it allows us to connect with each other. And if you don't have a spouse, do this with a friend, or do it just with your own journal, and take time to really celebrate all of your successes. Take time also to process those hardships. We live in a culture where we're supposed to just hop, skip, and jump over all of the trials and traumas. And I think that is a disservice, because we might not get the full impact of the teachings and the lessons from those things that we've been through. And you also can get moral support by saying, gosh, this was a really tough day that I had, or I'm not quite sure if I handled this right. And you can process that without ruminating over it, but learning from it. And then here's the beautiful thing. You get to relive it. So it slows down time. I call it my tool for slowing down time, because you get to really fully experience what you went through all that week. And then here's the beautiful thing. You have what we call coming attractions. And then you look at your week coming up with your partner so that you can say, oh yeah, on Tuesday, I've got the podcast. And it's like, well, I thought I was going to the dentist on Tuesday. And you can go through all of these things, especially families with kids. Get your kids involved. They should all be involved in the we time. Have them celebrate their successes. And then what I do is I have a leather bound book, and I take the top highlights of that week and I write them in my book, so that now I can go back to past years. And if my husband says, what did we do that year for my birthday? I've got it written down in my book. And it is a way of archiving your life, of celebrating your life, of feeling gratitude. And the other thing for me is it helps me feel so much calmer instead of being in a frenzy and life going by in a blur. The busier you are, the more you need the we time. And it's not more than an hour a week. Set aside. We like to do it on the weekends, get a cup of coffee, or, maybe at the end of the day, sometimes we'll go out to a restaurant where we, have our alone time and we're not being intruded upon. And of course, now we can go in restaurants again. And it is the ritual that has changed my life. So I hope everybody is going to do that. Go to type in THE, so it's thehealthyamerican.org, O-R-G, and then I am on YouTube daily. So I have 2 shows a day, Monday through Thursday, and it's at 10:30 a.m., 3:30 p.m. 3:30, it's all about your rights, the laws that protect them. We talk about religious exemptions, travel, medical care, all of that, businesses. In the morning, it's positive encouragement. It's all about mental and emotional wellness, how to thrive, how to be resilient. A lot of what we were talking about here at the end, Joel, how do we just keep ourselves buoyed up so that we don't fall, we don't drown in these stormy seas. And then I am on Instagram, The Healthy American Peggy Hall. I started doing Thursday Night Lives. Hop on, Joel, sometime. Thursday Night Lives, 7 p.m. It's a Q&A. I just answer Q&A, and I'm on Facebook and all the other social media.